Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Colts Cover 2 podcast. I am IndyStar Colts insider Jim Ayello, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host and fellow insider, Joel A. Erickson. Joel, has anything happened in the world of Colts today that you want to talk about? I mean, I feel like we're going to have a pretty short podcast today.
Well, I know if for all the people who say that the Colts never do anything on the first couple of days of free agency, they can't say that anymore.
I was one of those people, by the way, just so you know. Like, I'm gonna own that. I'm gonna wear that one.
I kind of said too in a story, but yeah, no, they've been big. They've been the biggest, probably the second biggest newsmaker on both days, I would say so far.
Yes. So to talk about what you're talking about, they got trounced a little bit today by Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay, but they make huge news, big splash, by signing Phillip Rivers to a 1-year, looks to be a $25 million contract to be the new quarterback of the Colts. This is a day after DeForest Buckner. They traded a first-round pick for DeForest Buckner. So making big splashes on both sides of the ball. Being completely honest with you guys, this is the second podcast we're recording today because we recorded one, 20 minutes before the Rivers news broke. Does that sound right?
The time all runs together, but it was like right before it happened.
So there's a version of this podcast that's pretty good, I thought, that you'll never hear. So there you go. So we're going to start. We started the first podcast talking about Buckner, but obviously the Rivers news is going to lead now because quarterback's the most important position in football, maybe of all sports, and they have a new one, and it's the one. I saw your story, Joel. You just posted a little bit ago. It's the obvious one. It's the one everyone's been drawing lines to and connecting dots and doing all those things. And usually for the Colts, if that's happening, they're going in a completely different direction. But this time, it lined up and it made sense and it happened.
Well, and I think in retrospect, maybe like sometimes the obvious thing is obvious for a reason. A lot of the quarterbacks that we talked about would require trades, and once you trade your first round pick for DeForest Buckner, that makes you far more reluctant to trade any more picks for quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of like Derek Carr. Andy Dalton, I believe, still requires a trade too, right?
Correct.
Nick Foles was one that people had thrown around. That would require a trade. Like once you made the trade for DeForest Buckner, that took a lot of those options that you and I kind of liked out. And it sort of left them with the free agent market. And really, for all the ballyhoo that this free agent class of quarterbacks was given this year, there's a lot of big names, but there's not a lot of real sure things.
No, there's a reason these guys are free agents for sure.
Right. It's either aging superstars on the very back end of their careers, or guys who, what you'd say were completely unproven. Teddy Bridgewater, maybe not completely.
Yeah, I was gonna say limited resume for sure.
But far from established. So it really wasn't as good a crop, and depends on if you like Tom Brady more or Phillip Rivers more. But I think they probably ended up with. I think they ended up with the best quarterback for them on the free agent market for their offense.
This is a bit of a turnaround for you. Let's just go out there. We've talked about this before. No, it's fine. I mean, I think people are allowed to change their opinions once they have more information and a little better got time to think about it. We talked about Phillip Rivers, I don't know, a month or two ago when the Chargers first released him and said he was going to become a free agent. We talked about what that option would be and what it would be like. Obviously, the Colts were interested in what he could bring to the team. But let me ask you, you say you like it for what was out there, I should say, given their options. Why? Why is that? Why the kind of change of heart?
Well, because when it comes down to it, I think it goes back to a different change of heart we had halfway through the season when I sort of jumped off the Jacoby Brissett bandwagon very quickly and turned pretty hard. And when it comes right down to it, Phillip Rivers is better for the Colts than Jacoby Brissett would have been. He just is. And there may have been options out there that were better. Mm-hmm. But like I said, once you trade for DeForest Buckner, some of them may be harder to get, at least better, at least in terms of the long term. And Phillip Rivers upgrades this team, and he fixes a lot of the issues that frankly drove people insane with the Colts offense this year.
Yeah, and I will kind of be the devil's advocate and say he introduces a whole new set of problems, but we can get into that later. You like the fit in Frank Reich's offense. I want to lay this out for people. The reason there were so many connections to Rivers, obviously, was because of their history with his history with Frank Reich and Nick Sirianni in San Diego, now Los Angeles, the Chargers. And they had a phenomenal first year together. I mean, there's really I believe it was 2013. He completed almost 70% of his passes. I'm looking at the numbers now. 32 touchdowns, 11 picks. It was a great season, a Pro Bowl season for him. And then the next 2 years, though, things kind of went down. They had 2 kind of rough years. Frank Reich got fired and had to go to Philadelphia to kind of, I wouldn't say resurrect his career, but kind of change things up a little bit. And Rivers eventually kind of bounced back and had a phenomenal 2018 a couple of years later. So I wanted to get your take on this. Like, a lot of people think, hey, Frank Reich they're reunited, which means he's going to fix Phillip Rivers and all the interceptions and badness that he had last year is going to be gone. Do you believe that? Because I'm a little hesitant to buy into that right away.
No, I don't believe that. I don't think I shouldn't say. I think there's a scenario where he throws 20 interceptions again.
Okay.
But I think it's more to do with the fact that the Phillip Rivers version of the Colts offense is going to be a lot more like the Andrew Luck version of the Frank Reich offense than the Jacoby Brissett one. And after seeing the 2 of those things, I would much rather have the Andrew Luck version. It's
certainly more entertaining. That is for sure. I just, so yeah, I mean, let's go through the differences. What is the major difference for you between the 2? And I think you kind of touched on it, but maybe you can elaborate on what you see as a difference between what Brissett brought to the table and what he, kind of I think maybe where he maxed out versus what Phillip Rivers can do.
Well, there's a couple of different things. I think number one, and it's really what Frank Reich has been saying over and over again, is the most important thing to him when it comes to a quarterback physically is he's just accurate. Yeah. He's far more accurate than Jacoby Brissett. Brissett down the stretch was 56% completion percentage. And frankly, that sunk the Colts more than some of the other issues we're going to get to later, because you can get yards per attempt by just completing passes. And he just kind of stopped doing it. And regardless of whether or not the injury was there, Phillip Rivers his lifetime is 64.7. He was at 68.9 or something the year before. He's just more accurate. He just is. He's going to complete more passes. He's going to keep the chains moving more than Brissett did. Then I think the other one is they didn't have explosive plays last year. No. Frank Reich has said over and over again, the most important statistic to him is yards per attempt. Now you can get that up with completion percentage. You can get it by throwing down the field. The Colts were anemic in terms of producing explosive plays. They were 30th in the league in producing passing plays of 20 yards or more. They were 31st in passing plays of 40 yards or more. Mm-hmm. With Rivers at the helm, the Chargers were 10th in passing plays of 20 yards or more, and they were 6th in passing plays of 40 yards or more. There's explosiveness. Rivers is going to take chances, and this is where you'll bring the obvious drawback, and the one that people have mentioned to me several times. But Rivers is going to push the ball down the field. You're going to have explosive plays. It fixes parts of the offense that really sometimes were non-existent last season.
I agree, but and I agree with everything you said there. But let's go to the warts real quick. One, he's not nearly as mobile or as elusive as Jacoby Brissett was. And you can say what you want about the Colts offensive line. They played, they had a very good season in terms of limiting sacks, but I think Jacoby Brissett's best plays from last year were those ones where we saw him breaking away from tacklers. I mean, the one I'm thinking of obviously is the Von Miller throw. He escapes pressure from Von Miller and throws it to Hilton 30 yards downfield. I think we spent a lot of time watching Jacoby Brissett escape the pocket and make big plays with his feet. Those were his best plays when those happened. I don't think you're going to see a lot of those from Phillip Rivers.
No, you're not, but I have a counter to that.
Yeah.
And it's one that I think a lot of Colts fans were screaming about all season long. Jacoby Brissett was one of the it's the decision-making. Everyone said he gets back and he just waits and won't pull the trigger. The ball doesn't come out on time. And that's true. He was second to last in the entire NFL in time from the snap to the throw.
Yep.
Averaging 2.93 seconds to throw. Only Kirk Cousins was worse. Which that was kind of a weird one. Sometimes those snap to throw guys are like Mahomes or Rodgers because they're so busy trying to get the big play. Jacoby obviously didn't do that. But then Phillip Rivers was the sixth fastest at 2.63 seconds time to throw. He's going to get the ball out.
He is. And you're 100% right. I really like that you pointed that out because that is going to fix some of the problems, and it's also going to fix the next thing I was going to talk about was that Phillip Rivers' decision-making, even though he was getting the ball out quick, was often questionable since he threw 20 interceptions last year. However, if you watch some of the highlights of those interceptions, and I'm taking a page out of Jordan Love's book right now, Jordan Love said, I think everybody was asking him, when you threw 17 interceptions last year, what do you do about that? And he said, I go back and watch every one of them and see how I fix them. Well, you start to watch Phillip Rivers' interceptions, and you start to see that a lot of those maybe had to do with the fact that he was getting pressured and made some bad decisions. Now, that's going to happen again, even with a good Colts offensive line. But I think a lot of the time, maybe you could, if you're being hopeful about this year for Phillip Rivers, you're saying the offensive line's going to protect Phillip Rivers, and he's not going to get so much pressure in his face and make so many poor decisions.
Well, and going back to how we started this by me saying that this allows the Colts to be far closer to the Luck version of the Frank Reich offense than the Brissett version of the Frank Reich offense. Andrew Luck threw interceptions.
Yeah, no doubt.
He threw, I believe, 15. Is that right? From the 2018 season?
I am looking it up as we speak, but keep going.
He threw. I mean, he threw a ton of touchdown passes, but the interceptions were there. The sort of bonehead throw that Luck was known for was still there. And it's just a much better version of the offense, even with the mistakes. I mean, Rivers did throw 20 last year. That's not good, but if you can get it down into the 14-15 range, we're talking about maybe being much more like the Luck season.
Yeah, I mean, you're not. Well, yeah, he did throw a lot more touchdowns, but yeah, he's got, because Luck's 2018, to give you what you were going for, it was 39 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. He completed 67% of his passes. However, he did have a yards per attempt of 7.2, but I think you've been right to point out in the past that that yards per attempt number went up as the season went on for the Colts.
Well, it drastically shot up, probably by like almost a yard after the running game established itself. Rivers, obviously, unless something happens to Quentin Nelson or Anthony Costanzo or somebody, is going to have that running game. So, which honestly is probably a better running game than he had with the Chargers most of the time.
Ooh.
Melvin Gordon was good, but he was very spotty. I say that as a frequent fantasy owner of Melvin Gordon.
I know, but Austin Eckler was outstanding last year.
Yeah, but wasn't a lot of it because of the way he catches the ball?
I mean, he definitely, no doubt, he gets a lot of value from that. And we should talk about that real quick, by the way, with Nyheim Hines maybe seeing a burst in value. But
are you going to double down on the bet you lost to me from last year now that Rivers is a quarterback?
I'm glad you brought that up publicly. Thank you, Joel. No, okay. So to tell you guys all what he was talking about, I've always thought Marlon Mack had better hands than he's given credit for, and I think you've seen that. You've seen him catch the ball, but I thought there would be a game last year where Marlon would have somewhere between like 8 to 10 catches, just because I thought Frank Reich was going to want to prove to people that he was a versatile back and that they had to beware of him out of the backfield. My logic was sound, Joel. My logic was sound. It did not come even close to happening. I think he topped out at 3, maybe.
And I think the most targets he had was like 5 or 6, like something very low. Like the targets weren't even close to getting 8 catches.
Yes, it was a mistake on my part. I owe Joel a Subway sandwich, but I might double down and make it a foot long this year. We'll see what happens. So no, but I do think I have seen some people say this, and I think it's an interesting comparison. I think Nyheim Hines' value does go up. One, because I think you and I talked about this. How explosive he is in the open field. I think the Colts are going to want to try to give him the ball more. But obviously we saw Phillip Rivers take advantage of Austin Eckler last year. 92 catches, 993 yards for a running back.
Yeah, and he's kind of had a guy like that with a lot of the times he's played.
Yeah.
Reich obviously knows that.
Right. Frank's spent a lot of time around Darren Sproles. Have those times lined up or no?
Yeah. Sproles was on the Super Bowl team. I think he got hurt going into it.
Yeah.
But then if you remember, Corey Clement had some very, very big time passing plays in that playoff run and one incredible touchdown catch in the Super Bowl. So, the running back, I think maybe maybe gets a boost from Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, for sure. I was trying to see if Reich ever coached Sproles in San Diego, but I forgot about the 3 New Orleans years in the middle of Sproles' career for a minute there. So
Oh yeah. That's way.
Yeah.
I think that's way before.
It is. He was in Philadelphia by 2014, so he did coach Sproles in Philly, but never in San Diego. So, but anyway, yeah, I think you're right. I think that there's a chance that the running backs get a receiving boost. Probably Mac too, though not to the degree I would think, but Hines definitely for sure. So for you fantasy people out there, yeah, invest early.
Oh no. Fantasy people out there, always invest in running backs who both catch it and run it.
Yeah, hey, if you're in a PPR, you could do worse, man. James White always has good years with those Patriots catching the ball like that. So we are wildly off topic, and there's no excuse for it because there's so much Colts news. So let's get back. To Phillip Rivers. Let's go to a different version of this. Is the flexibility that a 1-year deal, $25 million, doesn't really matter to me. I mean, they still have cap room after this. They'll probably have a little more depending on what they do with Hoyer and Brissett. I have a hard time believing they're going to keep one or both of them going forward. I think maybe they'll keep one around as a backup. But they're going to have plenty of cap room. I don't think the $25 million mattered. What I think is very important is that the 1 year gives them incredible flexibility going forward, which is if Rivers has a good year, they can try to bring him back. If Rivers has a bad year, both he and Brissett's contract expire at the end of the year, and they're back to where they were this time, but they're not tied down to anything they don't like.
Yeah, I mean, 1 year is really a nice. It's really a nice luxury to have if you're gonna have to spend $25 million on somebody. Which, and I want to say this, I know some people have thrown out the Drew Brees deal as evidence that, number one, this one's insane that they could have gotten Drew Brees, and number two, that they paid Phillip Rivers too much. So there's two answers to that. Number one, Drew Brees was an Anthony Costanzo situation. He was never, ever leaving New Orleans. Number two, the last 2 contracts Brees has signed, he has taken less than his market value on purpose because the Saints need to win because he's trying to win a Super Bowl with the Saints. So there's those 2 arguments. They're out of the way. We moved on.
Yes, they were, and also, yeah, as I say, they were never going to get Drew Brees. That's never going to happen. So.
Honestly, 1 year, $25 million. I think the report I saw on Brady was $30 million.
It is $30 million. Yeah.
At this point in their careers, I don't know if there's a $5 million a year difference for me.
No, it's more. I feel like that $5 million is maybe a legacy number. The Super Bowl tax, the GOAT tax. That seems to be maybe what that is. But no, I mean, so you like the 1 year and what it gives what it allows the Colts and Chris Ballard to do going forward.
I do, because, like we said, the younger guy who maybe could. I think the ideal thing for me was that they could get a younger guy who was under contract for a couple of years, and it would give you several swings at the draft. Those guys really aren't available. I don't necessarily think. Maybe Dalton. We still haven't seen what's going to happen with Andy Dalton, but I don't know if those guys are available as much as we thought they were, and so. That means that you're going to have to go on the free agent market. On the free agent market, I would much rather have Phillip Rivers at $1 million or at 1 year and $25 million than I would say Teddy Bridgewater at 3 years, $60, with those extra years on the back end of it.
Yes, you're a notorious Teddy hater, so that is known to the world.
I mean, just don't think he's as good as everybody else does.
No, yeah, you are further out on Teddy, I think, than most people I've seen. So no, I mean, again, you're entitled to your opinions, but I think I tend to agree because Teddy required some risk, right? Like, I don't know what the actual guarantees were. I saw 3 years for $60, but it does require a little bit of extra leash that Rivers won't. Obviously, the upside people would say is that if Bridgewater's good, then they have him for longer.
Yeah, but. Hey, obviously the evaluation on Bridgewater was they didn't feel the need to go after him the way they did on Rivers, and as you just hinted to everyone, I agree.
Oh, did I hint that? Did I hint that strongly? Maybe it's because you outed me on my Marlon Mack bet. No,
Let's just say I have friends who really still watch the Saints very closely, and I respect their opinions very much. And they were not impressed with Teddy's stint as a starter.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get that. I mean, I don't think there was as much. Maybe it didn't seem like there was as big a market for him as you would have expected. Like teams that had clear openings weren't necessarily going after him. So that might say something about to speak to what you're talking about. But I do like the 1 year that Rivers got and the Colts. Like I said, I don't mind Rivers signing overall, but like I said, I like it a lot more with the 1 year just because it allows them to start over if they have to next year. And it'll be tough because I don't anticipate them having a top 10 pick next year. But again, it just gives them flexibility to move up. We've now seen Chris Ballard not afraid to make big-time trades for big-time players if he has to. So,
well, and if he plays well and they think he can play at that level again, you sign him to another 1 year deal and you keep moving him down until you don't have to. I mean, if you looked at some of the way quarterbacks are aging now, guys like Rivers, Phillip Rivers has never really had a major structural injury.
Phillip Rivers is an Iron Man. He's played, I think it's 14 straight years. Is that right?
Yeah, he's remarkably durable. Every year he's played all 16 games. And guys like that who haven't had a major structural injury in a while, like Breeze had the ACL. Breeze had the shoulder, Brady had the ACL. Right. But since then, they've been relatively injury-free, structurally wise. I'm talking about, like, not the thumb Breeze had this year, but, like, your back, your legs, your neck. The stuff that, like, well, honestly, pushed Peyton out the door.
Right, yeah.
Guys that don't have that have been able to play a lot longer. So Phillip Rivers told Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network that he's hoping it's more than just a 1 year deal, that he gets to keep playing. But if he's right and he does get to keep playing at a high level, then you just keep signing him to short-term deals, and then you sort of have what I was hoping for in the first place, which is more swings at the draft.
Yeah, and so that's the other part about this is that they don't have a first-round pick, but they do have 2 second-round picks. The rest of the remaining of the rest of the draft, they could still draft a developmental guy, and throw him behind Rivers and see what happens. I mean, and again, I don't know if they'll have Brissett or have Hoyer. I'm sure we'll learn that very soon. Hopefully, we don't have to record a third podcast tonight. But I think we'll find out the future of those guys soon. But like I said, I don't think this limits them to. I mean, Jim Irsay said during his press conference ahead of the combine, and again, maybe telegraphed it, that maybe they will take somebody in the middle rounds of the draft. That's something that they would definitely look into. So. There could be somebody they're targeting, a Jalen Hurts, a Steven Montez, one of those guys in the second or third, fourth, fifth, sixth round.
I hope it's not Jalen Hurts. Wait, what?
You're just revealing.
It's late, and I'm tired, and all of my biases are coming out on this podcast.
I was just gonna say you're gonna tell everybody who you hate and love in all in one podcast here. But yeah, so I don't, like I said, I don't know that Phillip Rivers was the best answer. I think, again, it's hard to know. I'll be like frank with you guys. I was talking to our editor tonight about, like, what were the compare the Phillip Rivers option to the other options available. Well, we don't quite know yet. We don't know. Actually, we don't really know what the Mariota deal was yet. We don't know what it's going to take to trade for Andy Dalton. We don't know if Derek Carr was ever actually really available. There's still a lot of things we don't know. I'm really anxious to see all these things play out. So we can kind of
that's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing is I think that we do know now that Derek Carr was not available, because I think everybody thought that it was going to be Tom Brady goes to the Raiders, which frees up Derek Carr, and the big swing that you'd think would push him out is not there.
Yeah, well, it turned out that's true, right? Because Brady became available and the Raiders were uninterested. So you're probably right. So. It depends. Yeah, I would love to know if there was a price on him, if there was an actual, pick or cost that somebody could have paid to go get him that would have changed the Raiders' mind. But it doesn't seem. It seems like you're right. It seems like they weren't going to happen. Oh, I have terrible news to report. My free agent, my 5 free agents the Colts might sign are taking a beating today, Joel.
Who'd you lose now?
Quentin Jefferson, defensive end for the Seahawks, who I really liked as a cheap kind of like Jabal Sheard replicant, is now with the Bills. So.
Oh, he's now in Buffalo. Well, he's gonna have fun there.
Yeah,
Buffalo has fun defense.
That's a great defense, and he's a very underrated player. I kind of liked him. I don't know what the numbers are now. Ian Rappaport's reporting it, but yeah, I'm taking a beating today. I lost what's his name, Jalen Mills, which hurts. It really does hurt. So yeah, we'll see how the rest of these play out, but. Are you ready? Do you have more Rivers things? I mean, we're going to talk Rivers again soon, but Do you have more Rivers things, or do you want to move on to the giant trade that the Colts swung on Monday?
I think we can move on to Buckner.
Okay. DeForest Buckner. Colts sacrifice the number 13 overall pick for probably top 5 interior defensive lineman in the NFL. If that's fair to you. I think that I'll just start off right now. I think the move makes a ton of sense for the Colts. I like the Family Guy thing with the mystery box. It always makes me laugh. It's like the mystery box to me is the draft pick, and you can have a boat or a mystery box was the Family Guy joke, and obviously you'd want the boat, but he's like, oh, what about the mystery box? The mystery box could be anything. Could have a boat, and that's to me that's the joke. I love that with the draft pick is you're hoping to get a guy like DeForest Buckner in the draft, and now they could just secure him. They had the cap space to sign him to a new extension to make him happy, and now they have an incredible defensive lineman that they can just stick right in the starting line.
Right. No, I just piggybacking off of as long as we're talking about people I love watching DeForest Buckner for a long time. He's a very unique presence as an interior rusher because he's so long at 6'7" and so powerful, and he's got this ability to kind of I don't know how to describe it, but he changes where his body is laterally very, very well for somebody who's that big and that tall, and very explosive. He's a fun guy for me to watch. I think he's probably one of the top 3 or 4 3 techniques in the league, a notch below Aaron Donald, which is where they paid him.
For sure.
And I think there was, at one point, somebody on the free agent market that you could have signed without giving up a draft pick, but then the Chiefs franchise tagged him and and took that ability away from you. And so once that's happened, once you've lost the possibility of Chris Jones and the franchise tag, which I think everybody knew was happening.
Yeah.
Everyone's known that for a while, that they were going to franchise tag him. You go get a player like Buckner, and really this is something Chris Ballard has been talking about for a long time. He said at the end of the season, he said, well, he didn't feel like they got enough interior pressure, and he felt that, and he said that the 3 technique drives this thing.
Yeah.
And Danico Autry has been solid as a 3 technique, but he hasn't been dominant the way that the 3 techniques like Warren Sapp or Tommy Harris were in the defenses Ballard grew up on watching like this. And Buckner has the capability to be dominant.
Yeah, and I mean that's I liked the way I think Greg put it in. Greg Doyle, our colleague and columnist at the IndyStar, I love the way he put it, which is that one guy is going to affect 10 more. I mean, this is the kind of guy you stick in the middle of your defense and know that he's going to make the people around him better by not only with his just abilities to get to the passer himself with interior pressure, but to absorb double teams. I mean, this is a guy that's going to take on a lot of double teams and free up his teammates in one-on-one matchups. And when you have guys like Justin Houston and Kamoko Toure and Danico Autry now, who will probably slide over on the line and play next to him in some situations, these guys are going to have opportunities to thrive because of the caliber of player that Buckner is on the inside.
Well, and so this is where I feel like I said this already because I did in the first podcast that will never see the light of day.
Yes.
But the other thing about it is, they have all of those guys are going to have, yes, they're going to have chances to get one-on-one. But also, last year, I felt like when you're watching the rush, you'd see the edge guys get a lot of pressure. Justin Houston in particular was very consistent pressure.
Right.
And he'd come flying off the edge, and he'd have a shot at the quarterback, and then the quarterback would step up into the pocket where there wasn't pressure coming from the interior, and he'd either escape out and make a play, or he'd just make a play in there in the pocket. And it was a real hole in their pass rush. That's what Ballard was talking about with interior pressure at the end of the season. And DeForest Buckner fixes that, like almost immediately, and just by signing him, he fixes that. He's a very, very consistent pressure of the quarterback. And that makes it a lot easier for everybody else to get home because it just suffocates the quarterback a little bit. There's 3 or 4 guys in the NFL, I'm talking about Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, who can still get out when there's pressure up the middle.
Yeah.
But most quarterbacks, that's their kryptonite, is when they cannot step up into the pocket to make the throw.
Yes, the quarterback the Colts just signed will have an issue if he face somebody like DeForest Buckner. That is for sure. I would say, too, that I tweeted this out, and this is actually one of the things I thought made a lot of sense was you pay this guy to get pressure on, kind of like you're talking about, guys, elusive quarterbacks, and in big situations. I could not have been more impressed with DeForest Buckner playing in the Super Bowl, sacking Patrick Mahomes 1.5 times. Not to mention a clip I saw of him chasing down Kyler Murray after getting off a double team. But to get back to the Super Bowl, I mean, like, this is you're playing in a game that is featuring some of the best players in the world, and for you to stand out, I mean, I got to think that's maybe what sold Chris Ballard. Not that he was ever doubting a guy like DeForest Buckner, but man, for you to show out in a game like that, I think that's definitely the kind of veteran leadership he's looking for. And by all accounts, by the way, DeForest Buckner is going to slide right into this locker room, no problem. Most people seem to think he's a great guy, easy to have around, and this won't be a problem. Which we've talked about before. Ballard said it has to be the right guy. That if you're going to throw huge money at somebody, it's got to be the right guy. It's got to be somebody that his teammates think are deserving of that, and somebody his teammates are willing to follow, right? It's got to be a team leader.
Yeah, no. He's got the character to match. No one's ever going to say if you looked at 49ers people, guys who covered the 49ers yesterday after the trade was made, they were pretty upset about the fact that they had to lose him in the locker room and lose him being around. So yeah, I think he'll fit right in with this culture that the Colts have, or that they've been trying to build.
And then I want to quiz you. What is the one thing that DeForest Buckner and Phillip Rivers have in common that the Colts are going to enjoy so much?
Oh boy,
we touched on it with
Phillip.
Tall? They're both what?
They're both tall.
They might enjoy both those things. I'll give you one more guess, then I'll just say what I got to say. I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint. Everybody thinks I jinxed it on Twitter.
I have no idea. This is not coming to me.
They're both remarkably durable. Remarkably durable. DeForest Buckner has played and started 16 games for 3 straight seasons, and then 3 playoff games last year. In his rookie year, he only missed 1 game, started 15. He's missed 1 game, 1 regular season game in 4 seasons. I mean, and we talked about this before on the first podcast, which is fun to keep referencing. He played 77% of the snaps last year. That's the lowest of his 4 years. He's played around 80% of the snaps his other years. He plays a lot of special teams. This guy just doesn't come off the field. He really doesn't. I mean, and that's so valuable to have for a team. Somebody was saying, well, if you play so many snaps, you should have better counting stats. And I was like, no. I mean, that's maybe you'd want that, but I almost see that as unselfish play. The guy doesn't come off the field, to rest up and hopefully, get off in spurts. He is just a consistent, dominant presence out there.
Yeah, well, and as far as his counting stats, I would say the sacks do go up and down a little bit, but the quarterback hits, which are a sign of pressure, are very consistent. Yeah, very, very, very consistent, and so that is something that's kind of a knock against that. Sack numbers do fluctuate for interior players. Sure. Well, except for Aaron Donald, he doesn't count because he's not an interior player as much as he is an Avenger.
Right. Yes.
But for everybody else, they do tend to fluctuate some just because of the nature of the position. And it often is pretty dependent on the guys you have around you. And early in DeForest Buckner's career, the Niners' offensive line was a mess. You think about what they had this year. They had to get 2 edge guys to get the defensive line that they had this year, and then they had to have another one, Eric Armstead, become much better than he'd ever been before. So
yeah.
That lack of production around him probably didn't help.
No, for sure. But I mean, to your point, I mean, this is from rookie year to now, a quarterback hits 18, 22, 20, and last year was 14, his career low, but he still had 7.5 sacks. He still had 20 pressures and 34 the year before. So the guy was wreaking havoc pretty consistently. If you look through his game logs too, that's the thing I really liked about it was he'd have 1 or 2 quarterback hits a game. He's getting there every game. He's making an impact every game. So let's get to the cost a little bit and break that down a little. First round pick, number 13. I did talk about the kind of the mystery box part of it, but are you okay with giving up a first round pick? To me, this strikes me as kind of a win now-ish move. Like Ballard wouldn't have made this move 3 years ago, even for a guy who is only 26, turned 26 today. Happy birthday, DeForest. He turned 26 today, but I don't think he makes this move 4 years ago because you want to draft a guy who's going to give you 8, 9, 10 years versus the 4 or 5 that DeForest is scheduled to get with his contract. But what was your take on this deal in that regard?
Well, I think it's I think it's both a win now and a move for the future. He's only 26, just as of today, and so he's got a lot of time left on his career. But he obviously, you use a first-round pick on somebody. Yes, that's a move. You're expecting to get immediate impact. Obviously, that's why you went for him. But I also think that on the back end of it, it's 5 years. This is a foundational player. You traded for a foundational player, as opposed to when I think of a win now move, I usually think of trading for somebody at the trade deadline or on a 1-year deal, something that's going to go out, that kind of thing.
That's true, and I get that. I just meant kind of like I said. I meant it's one of those deals that you don't pull off a blockbuster like this unless you thought your team was close. And I think I'm to be honest with you, I think I was supported in that theory by the Phillip Rivers signing. I don't know that you necessarily go out and get a guy like Phillip Rivers unless you think your team is somewhat close.
No, I think that's definitely true. I mean, if you're going to get, because he's going to start, even if they do draft somebody with the 34th pick or the 44th pick or something further down, Phillip Rivers is the wild favorite to start the season.
Right.
You don't start somebody else over him, and so that makes it a bigger deal in terms of a win now type of move at quarterback. It's probably more of a win now move at quarterback than it was at defensive tackle, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I just think the moves, if you look at the moves in tandem, that's kind of what. And it's funny. I mean, I don't know. Would you call the 3 technique the most important position on the Colts defense?
Yes,
okay.
100%.
So then you have
100.
Yeah, so
100% because you have to have pressure.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who say there's a lot of not just the Tampa 2 scheme, but just about everybody says that rush is probably more important than coverage. And that's the focal point in this defense. You think about those Tampa defenses. Warren Sapp was the best player on it, and I think from watching the Bears, Tommy Harris meant a lot.
Yeah, of course. Tommy Harris that's kind of what unlocked that Bears run. And again, Chris Ballard knows this better than I as a young boy in Chicago watching the team. He was working for the team and scouting these guys. And Tommy Harris, when he was inserted into that lineup, that was kind of what unlocked guys like Alex Brown and Adewale Ogunleye, and then helped guys like Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs soar. I mean, Lance Briggs is in that Darius Leonard role, and then you have a guy like Kenny Moore who's going to be able to do more just because of kind of what is happening on the defensive line. You're going to have guys who are going to be able to make more plays based on what DeForest Buckner is doing up front.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's interesting to see that what that's what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting to see that that's where they're going, and it feels a little bit more immediate than maybe the long-term planning you're used to.
So let me ask you. I mean, we're on this now, and maybe we talk more about Buckner in a minute. But do you see any more big moves coming in the way of the Colts then? Just because they signed Anthony Costanzo, that's huge at left tackle. They get themselves a new quarterback they believe to be a significant upgrade. Then they sign, like you said, or they bring in a star young player to play the most important position on their defense. This is a team that seems to be angling for the division and maybe more. Do you see them trying to go out and do a little, maybe just push their chips to the table with one more big move?
Maybe, but the cap space is starting to get pretty tight, I think.
Yeah.
Which would lead to think that maybe of the quarterbacks that Brissett maybe could be on the move.
I think it's possible Brissett's on the move. I think it's possible Hoyer's on the move. Obviously, wouldn't bring back as much as a guy like Brissett would. But I do think they're going to try to alleviate cap in some way at the quarterback position, for sure.
So that means that it's hard to know right now exactly what the cap is, and I'd like to get an update soon. But yeah, that's the interesting part is do you go completely all in with the money, or do you go, okay, we need to hold some cap back here in case we need to do something else?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and maybe Ballard returns to his roots a little bit and goes, okay, I've hit a couple of home runs here. I'm gonna start hitting some singles and doubles and signing some of the guys that are $7-8 million per year guys, or maybe even less, to try to supplement this team a little bit. Maybe another edge rusher to kind of bring into the fold, or you and I talked about on the first podcast. Maybe another young receiver with some upside that maybe you draft him. Or I'm sorry, you bring him in, you draft somebody, and you give yourself depth because I know. We know the Colts don't want to get into the same position they were last year with depth at receiver. Not that was largely their fault; they just suffered a lot of injuries. But I think they might overdo it this year just to make sure it doesn't happen again. So maybe those are the types of moves that they make going forward.
It'll be interesting to see what they do. Historically, it's been 2 or 3 big moves bigger money moves in free agency, and then the Colts kind of chill out. So they've got 2 big money moves now. It'll be interesting to see if it follows the way it has, or if we get more investment.
I want to go back to Rivers really quickly, specifically, and this little debate as to whether or not he'll be better here versus what he was in Los Angeles. And I want to talk about weapons. I want to say that the what he's coming into, previous to them making any additions, was better. He had Mike Williams, who was a very, very good receiver, but not as good as his other receiver, Keenan Allen, one of the best in the NFL, probably one of the best route runners there is in the NFL. He also had Hunter Henry, who the Chargers saw fit to franchise tag this year. We told you what Austin Eckler did, almost a 1,000-yard receiver, and he had Melvin Gordon. Now, the offensive line wasn't as good, obviously, but I'm wondering, he's coming to a place that does have some question marks at receiver. Does that make you worry at all based on what's coming? And then the other question would be, are there guys on the Colts right now who you expect to stand out with Rivers at quarterback?
It's hard, and they don't really have sort of the Chargers guys who I always think of as like the big, super athletic dudes.
Right.
They don't necessarily have those guys yet. I know there's a lot of fans that are out on Paris Campbell, which I don't really understand.
Yeah, that's silly.
Broke a bunch of times.
Give him time.
But I do think there are still 2 second-round picks. This is an incredibly deep. This is an incredibly deep wide receiver class. And last year, actually, another deep wide receiver class. The best rookies out of it were almost all second-rounders. I'm going to miss some of them, like off the top of my head. But I think Terry McLaurin, DJ Metcalf, like all those guys are kind of in that second round range. I almost said Decaf Metcalf thanks to Joe Tessitore.
Come on, get it right. It's Decaf.
But this is exactly the kind of wide receiver class where you'll be able to get somebody like that.
I agree. And yeah, so crazy like a fox, Chris Ballard's like, you know what? Not gonna get a good receiver in the first round. I'm gonna trade that pick and get him in the second round. So
right.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's exactly what he was thinking when he did that. But I was just curious about that. I guess one other guy, we mentioned Hines. I thought Jack Doyle might have a slightly bigger role. I remember going through the tape on Brissett a little bit and looking at the receivers that were open that he wasn't throwing to sometimes, and Jack Doyle was a frequent member of that group. And so
right.
Rivers being as accurate as we talked about, and having, I don't think you can dispute the vision. He's going to see guys. I think he sometimes just tries to force things into smaller windows. But if Doyle gives him some of the big windows that he gave Brissett last year, I think there's a chance that he's he could be a 60, 70 catch guy, especially given the fact that they don't have an Eric Ebron on the other side of him right now.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that there's a real chance for Jack Doyle to have a big year.
Okay, biggest question of the podcast. You ready for this? Let me lay it out for you. The Colts signed Justin Houston last year. He comes in, he talks to Anthony Walker and says, I want number 50. That's my number. And Anthony Walker says, I have a price. Now, I could never get Anthony Walker to tell me what that price was. He'd only smile and laugh at me and say, I'm still wearing the jersey. So, there you go. So, Justin Houston, number 99, right? DeForest Buckner, 4 years of San Francisco, wearing 99. How do you see this playing out? This is the critical Colts question of the podcast.
I see DeForest Buckner wearing like 98 or something.
That's it? You think it just goes? Do you think it's that simple?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. For some reason, I don't see Justin Houston changing again.
I don't see Justin Houston budging on anything from numbers to like favorite McDonald's order. Just like I think he's a guy that likes what he likes, and so that's it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so you're saying your guess right now is there's no Anthony Walker staying at 50. I was wondering if Houston ups the offer maybe to Anthony Walker
To shift everybody around?
to shift everybody around, or is that unprecedented?
If that happens, I will lose my head, like trying to like remember. I mean, not that I don't know who those guys are, but like in my head, there's certain numbers, and it just messes with me whenever it switches it. Like it always happens at the end of training camp, where somebody makes the team, and then they get a chance to get a real defensive back number or something instead of like the 40s.
Yeah.
And it takes me at least a month to figure out what number they're wearing now.
Okay.
It might not. Obviously, it's probably not the same with guys that are that good, but. Yeah, I hope not. I would bet that it's probably DeForest Buckner at like 98.
I think I tweeted this out, and I think somebody said he wore maybe 94 in college. But it's taken off a little bit on George Bremer, our colleague, wants to see like a cage match, and Mike Chappell is calling it Thunderdome already. So this should be fun, I think. I think this is going to be the real story of the offseason. So
DeForest Buckner's Oregon number, it looks like, was 44.
Oh, 44. Yeah, he's not going there, I don't think, right? I mean, he could.
No, I don't think he can, actually.
Is he? Oh, yeah, you'd have to go. That's like.
I think the NFL rules might prohibit it.
That's a linebacker, right? Yeah, that's it, right? Because I think.
Yeah, I think that has to be a linebacker, defensive back, or fullback. Okay. I don't think you can have a 44 as defensive lineman. So, yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. He can't have the same number twice like he'd like to.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like I said, I wonder if he calls Justin, and Justin was like, listen, I already had to switch once. I'm not doing it again. And Justin's the veteran, Justin's he's got a lot more time in the NFL than DeForest Buckner. So it might just be. But anyway, it's a question I'm like stupidly eager to know the answer to. So we'll find. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to bring up. Oh, yeah. It's Brian Bulaga signed a contract today. $30 million. Where did you see where he went? I forget.
Oh, I did, and I forgot it already.
Okay. I think it's... Hold on, I'm checking now. No. Where? Oh, wait. Nope, I've lost it. Well, anyway, I'm bringing it up because once a year when Brian Bulaga makes news, I get to bring up the fact that I tackled Brian Bulaga in high school, and I just want everybody to know that. No big deal. It's actually, I think I might have told the story on the podcast already. What actually truly happened was... Did
he know you were coming?
Oh, no. Here's what happened. Swear to God. He was playing tight end unfairly in high school at this point. Like 330-pound Brian Bulaga was playing tight end against like 120-pound DB Jim. And Jim got blocked to a point and fell on the ground. And Brian Bulaga, with the ball in his hand, tripped over Jim and fell. And as I was getting up, I didn't know what happened really. And then the announcer at the game said Jim Ayello with the tackle. And so there you go. That's my point of pride. I've tackled it. When he got drafted in the first round by the Packers, I was like, tackled the first round pick. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff. I just want everybody to know that. Yeah.
No, that's pretty good. That's definitely pretty good. I mean, that's
it's not great.
I played my high school ball in an area of the country where there's only been one NFL player who of any note, and he was 4 years ahead of me. So I've had no chances to tackle any NFL players. I had to tackle a guy who ended up being a Wisconsin nose tackle like 17 times in one game. That was fun.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good at all.
But no NFL players.
Well, like I said, I didn't actually tackle him. He just kind of like on his way to the end zone, there was a bug, and he like slipped on it, and that was me. So that's it. So, but yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up. I literally took a note for the podcast. It just says Brian Bulaga, and it's just I tackled Brian Bulaga. So there, that's for everybody. It's a little story about me.
There you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to brag a little bit. So I thought that was bigger news, or at least comparable to Buckner and Rivers. But, and again, I'm pretty sure I've told this story before, so I'm sure people are like, shut up. But Anything else on these two guys that you want to talk about going into the future? I think we'll probably have another podcast coming up to recap kind of the minor. I shouldn't say minor. Whatever the other moves the Colts make.
Well, I think we're probably going to get Phillip Rivers here and DeForest Buckner here in the next couple days, and maybe at the end of the week, maybe on like Friday or something, when the first real burst is over, we'll do another podcast. But this one, we really wanted to focus in on the twin enormous moves.
Yeah, I mean, they did. They like we talked about. They found the two most important positions on their teams and addressed them with guys they considered to be big upgrades. So whether or not that'll be true, we'll find out next year. But it's you know what? You can't complain anymore about Chris Ballard not making big moves because he's done it. He's made 2 splash moves this offseason. So now we don't really know what to expect from him ever again. Does that sound right?
Yeah, you know what? I'll go with it.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys listening. Joel's got something up on Anthony Costanzo's new deal on.
Yes, and his reason for both contemplating retirement and not retiring is kind of badass.
Yeah, it's awesome.
To be perfectly honest.
I loved it. So definitely, let's just tease it and leave it there. Hopefully, people have already read it. But if you haven't, go check it out. Obviously, we have plenty of Phillip Rivers content up already. You can check that out. Why the Colts like him. What happened to Jacoby Brissett in his audition, why Greg Doyle thinks this is a big move and a win-now move for the Colts. These are all things that you'll find there. We'll have more coming in the next couple days. So, yeah, check all that out. And
we've written at least 10 Colts stories. There's been at least 10 Colts stories posted since Monday morning, I think.
Yeah, so you're not lacking for Colts content right now, which is nice because, it's obviously a tough time for a lot of people, and we're hoping that we're able to provide a little entertainment and levity in this time, and hopefully you guys are all staying safe. I know, Joel, sounds like everybody in your family's doing okay right now. Glad to hear that.
Doing good so far, yep.
Good. Same for me, so we will, hopefully that continues, and hopefully for all of you guys that's the same. So everyone stay safe, wash your hands, and listen to our podcast when it comes up next. Thanks for joining us.